I know that it's my time to shine. Don't need
It's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, this is Ivy Slater, and welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. Today, I have a very, very interesting guest, and this whole episode's a bit near and dear to my heart, so stay with me. So we're talking to Diane Coburn Bruning. She is the founder of Chamber Dance Project. Diane is an award-winning choreographer who has worked with dance theater, opera companies throughout the U.S. and abroad. She has received numerous awards, has worked with amazing people, and I can go on, and you guys can click the link and read the whole thing. Diane started Chamber Dance Project in 2000. So she's 25 plus years into this. And she just started this on the foundation that dancers and musicians at the time in New York City, guided by a conviction that dance should be performed with live music, which does not always happen, especially in small troupes. Smaller venues afford more intense experiences, which is so true for viewers and performers alike, and sharing that creative process engages audiences on a deeper level. Diane moved the chamber dance music to Washington, D.C. I don't remember what year, Diane, but you'll tell us more. For those of you who are new to her success story, one of the reasons that I say this is near and dear to my heart is I started as a dancer. I started at 3, and I actually have a degree in dance and a degree in communications. And I danced through 23 when I blew out my knee, and I was told to never do this again. Didn't necessarily do that, but that's okay. Diane, thank you for joining me here today on Her Success Story.
Thank you for having me. And does that mean you did go back to dancing?
I will do easy classes, mostly tap, because it's just so damn fun, to be honest with you.
Yes.
It is just like after work, if you want to get your aggressions out, I'll go take like a beginner tap class and just, move and groove and laugh and enjoy myself. And it's a great stress reliever.
Great.
So tell me about your background and what prompted you to start Chamber.
Typical, started ballet at 4 with a beloved teacher in Rocky River, Ohio, which is right outside of Cleveland, which we love now, right? We love Cleveland. And then to fast forward, when I realized that one could major in dance at college, I was ecstatic. For several reasons. One is I knew I wasn't that baby ballerina who was going to go to SAB or ABT.
Right.
Just wasn't. I realized that. And I had a keen interest in other things, academic things. And secondly, my parents would have killed me if I didn't go to college.
But apparently our parents must have known each other in some past life, because I was told, we'll support you going to college, but you have to get another degree other than dance so you can actually pay a bill one day.
No, they were very supportive, but it was kind of academically oriented, and that would be the fallback. And I agreed. And it was just assumed. So when I found out about Butler University and their ballet-based program run at the time by old Ballet Ruse people and RAD and Broadway folks, I was ecstatic. And I set my sights just on Indianapolis for Butler. So there I went, and I too thought, well, I'll double major just to hedge my bets, but also that intellectual curiosity. And ironically, mine was going to be in political science. I had done a paper in AP history in high school about the importance of the National Endowment for the Arts, persuasive paper. And so hopefully it was persuasive. I don't know, though the NEA's dwindled. I didn't do very well. So that lasted about 1 semester when I realized the demands, thankfully, the demands of the schedule were too much to begin to do that. And what I loved about Butler and still love, and in fact, unknowingly hired a Butler dancer for our season, was that it was a conservatory type of education within a liberal arts organization. So I studied everything from jazz to modern to Spanish to tap to Slavic to music theory, voice, piano. We built scenery. I love that about it, but I could also go and take my Shakespeare and my English class and
Right.
Western Civ. I finished early and I had a fellowship to go to New York. Again, my parents, me going to New York, even though my big brother was there, it was like, okay, she's gonna live in the NYU grad dorm. We're fine. Here's the pepper spray. So there I went, and it was a good basis for then taking classes and
Yeah,
whatnot.
it's amazing place too, because I remember when I was younger, once I turned 16, I started once a week taking the train into the New York City from the suburbs by myself to take a dance class. And at 16, my father was like, go on this route to the class, although it's a little out of the way, it's safer.
Oh
And
gosh.
I never listened. I'd throw my leotard on, hop on a bus on 8th Avenue. It's like, how fast can
Yeah.
I get there? But
Yeah.
yes, New York is a plethora of places that they have so many different types of things you can do.
Yeah.
So
And in the
once you were there,
80s,
where'd you go?
yeah, in the 80s. Oh, well, who became really my um, technique, whatever mentor was David Howard, for sure. I would take the 10 o'clock class with, the best of them in the back. David knew why I was there. David even sponsored my choreography. He did workshops featuring my work. So he and I had a different relationship. I wasn't looking for a dance job because my junior year at Butler, there was one choreography class, and the teacher, George Verdak of Ballet Russe, really kind of went nuts over this little study I did. And everybody's like, and I was, back line of the core, and everybody says, Diane, Mr. V really loved that. And it kind of put an idea in my brain that choreography in ballet was not just for dead men, because I hadn't been exposed to much. Oh, yeah.
You mean it's not just Balanchine?
Yeah, I had not been exposed to much.
Right.
But I had always been creative. So later it made perfect sense. Ever since I was a kid, I was making stuff up. And I think my first ballet was at age 5 in Pymatuning campgrounds with my friend Vicki Brooks. And we threw up a sheet over a rope and did a little recital, and my older brother reminds me that he had to go to quite a few in our basement. So I guess it was always there, but ballet dancers, 80s, 90s, and I still feel today are technique. Now that technique is broadened, but the
Yes.
idea of choreographing and actually mentoring and that it is a craft, which I feel is not addressed as it is in music. It is a craft. You can learn
It
the
is
craft.
not addressed. It is not
It is
addressed.
not. And everywhere I would go as a freelance choreographer, I'd say, can I work with your pre-professionals? Just like music composition, there is a craft to it. The imagination, I don't think can be taught, but the craft serves the imagination. And we're in a pendulum swing where that's not really it. They're through composed, and it's pretty much all about incredible movement and much less so any reference to formal classicism as a
So
whole.
let me ask you this. As a woman and putting yourself out there as a choreographer, how well received were you?
Well, so I went to New York with this bug in my ear. Like, I like making stuff up and dance. It hadn't been introduced until age whatever, 19. So I was pursuing choreography at NYU, but taking classes everywhere else for credit. So NYU kind of, you know, they got my tuition, but I was paying elsewhere. So I started with that, and my master's thesis was to create a new work, which was The Scarlet Letter. And Carol Hageman, a classmate and also in choreography, and I put together a whole evening. We told no one it was a master's thesis. I was savvy enough to know nobody's going to come to, a school perform. So we marketed it. We did everything for it, and we got reviewers from Backstage Magazine, and then a writer, Joe Gale, from a New Jersey publication, who continued to champion my work until later. And fortunately, I got really outstanding reviews. Riverside Dance Festival, very big at the time for us fledglings, picked me up. We performed there, and then Richard England at Joffrey 2 saw my work at Riverside. I got fellowships to what was then called the Craft of Choreography Conference. Lynn Taylor Corbett was the choreographer. I 20 years later, was the choreographer in charge. And so then I set about very consciously working on my craft and pursuing opportunities as a freelance choreographer versus what I saw as a lot of young choreographers thinking they should have their own company. I thought nothing of the sort. I said, I am not experienced enough. Who knows if I'm good enough? Let's see if other people hire me. So starting a company was furthest from my mind.
So come 2000, what was the catalyst to then say, I'm going to do this? And what will it look like? And so what was
Yeah,
the why behind that?
probably 4 or 5 things, that a confluence of things. One was realizing just how long dancers' layoffs are then, and unfortunately now, and I can address that. But you're talking about everyone except City Ballet, ABT. A few more companies have joined that ranks where they're 52 weeks.
Right.
But even companies like Boston, they may be now. So back then, just the 2, 3, 4 big ones were
Yeah,
full
you had a
time.
couple of seasons and that
And
was it.
yeah, and we are talking 34, 36 weeks work. So what do you do with the other 18? And I had been working with Atlanta Ballet a lot, and I got
So I
talking
just
to
want to
them.
jump in here and I want to clarify.
Yeah.
If you are not working in that season, you are not getting paid.
You mean layoff? It's
Correct.
layoff.
You
Yeah.
are laid off. You
You
are
are
not.
laid off
So
if you
you're
don't
working a
find.
portion of the year.
Yeah, oh yeah, 18 weeks off. And unfortunately, that's still dominating today. So you're on unemployment if you can't get anything else. And I don't blame the dancers. How can they either gain the skills or say to somebody, hey, I've got 10 weeks, 12 weeks now, and then I have a week off in October and all this. Our system is difficult, unlike Europe. So that was one. I said, this is a waste. These dancers in such a short career are off 2, 3 months in the summer. So that stuck in my head. Also in my head was, I'm being asked more and more to work with canned music. I thought we were performing art. What's up with that? So that also affected me because at Butler and everywhere, I was raised with live music and dance, unless it was some synthesized score. So that was it. I went to New York knowing just my big brother was not in a big company, was not even in a small company. I came to realize that I didn't really love performing. I was just that, like, that's what you did. You danced to perform in ballet or you taught. And I had no interest in teaching until I started choreographing. And then I love teaching composition. So I thought I wanted to give other people a chance, other choreographers, not just at the beginning of their career, but choose choreographers who works I thought were compelling. So we went on to hire, I mean, I think I've commissioned about 25 choreographers, but really support their work and then have a home for mine because I spent 22 years getting on a plane, getting off, watching ballet class, which doesn't tell you a lot, and then go make a ballet. And so I wanted a home where I could hire the same dancers over and over. And so the last thing was I did a work for Pacific Northwest Ballet, with the live orchestra. It was Stravinsky's Symphony of Psalms. But
Okay.
Ivy, I looked up at opening night and saw people in the first balcony watching my ballet in opera classes. Something turned my stomach. I said, I didn't fall in love with ballet as a little girl from a football field away. I don't really want people to see my work or really anybody's work from a stadium. So all those things contributed to the final thing, which was having our second son and realizing so strongly, it was so strong, I can almost remember the day that the world was bigger than me and my choreography. And it started to feel selfish to
Okay.
just promote me. And so the confluence of those elements brought me to what can I do for the profession and the art form I love? And that was the final driving force to give back, not just focus on my work.
So today, 20 some odd years later, where is the company, and how do you function as far as um bottom line, it is not easy in the dance world to make a living. It is not easy to build a company that can financially support itself and actually provide for everyone. So what have you managed to accomplish? How have you done this?
So we had 8 or 9 summers in New York,
Okay.
2000 to 2008, 9. I think our last gig was taking a few dancers down to Cali, Colombia, to the International Ballet Festival. They
Oh,
wouldn't
cool.
pay for our musicians, so I worked with musicians there. Oh boy, that was pretty interesting, my not speaking Spanish and them not knowing the works. But
English.
then we that, the financial crisis hit, and it was clear that we were not going to be able to have our next season. Board members' work was decimated. It was a tough time. So if we put on a chamber dance project on hold, I'll go back to freelancing or become a sailing instructor. I actually thought I'll just, sail away. Um, so we actually had a hiatus. But I was proud of those early years. I brought dancers from all different companies I worked with. Choreographer Victor Chiata, I think I gave him his first commission. We had probably 1 or 2 commissions every year in my work, and it became this beautiful little special project. So the opportunity came up in DC. I was here choreographing for the opera, for
Okay.
theater companies, and went back to freelance because we had this hiatus. And that's when I worked with Milwaukee and a company in Berlin. And then it became clear to me that not only was Washington really a one company town, but they also had a long layoff. And my friend Septime Weber ran it. And I thought, there's room for us here. So it was not until 2014 that I restarted it. And we started again as a summer project and have since expanded to January and in October, depending on when dancers' layoffs are. So
And
starting,
so you're primarily now focused in DC, in Washington,
yeah, but
DC.
we have and we will tour. Uh, but so building a business, no MBA, but I have to say 22 years of going around and doing my contracts, sometimes with attorneys and sometimes on my own, doing my whole business end of freelance taught me a lot. Plus sitting in the room with artistic directors, ballet masters, board members. As a choreographer, you go in and you interface with upper management. So it was not totally naive. Was it difficult? You bet. Were we on a shoestring? You bet. Took no salary first year? You bet. In each city. But, when the passion's there, nobody's going to talk you out of it. So the first years in DC were challenging because you have to show something to get grants and whatever. And God love them, the small board we started with looked at what we had in New York and said, okay, we trust this woman. She's got some creds. And then it was building from the board, family and friends in New York, but in DC, it was a wonderful board member, David Keaton, who said, I'm going to come down and help you, and other people. And then it really professionalized, because our first appearance at Kennedy Center in June of 2014 made people stand up figuratively and literally. And the Post gave us a slam dunk rave. And then you can trot that out. Reviews in themselves take a little bit of what they say. Don't believe the good ones too
Right.
much, or the bad ones, but you could trot it out and you could show. And then after a few years, we got DC Arts Commission grant. They didn't like that we were incorporated in New York. So it took some appealing to say, okay, but we have our offices right in city center for years, and then also garnering sponsors like our administrative offices, as well as our dance rehearsal. So it's
So
been
Diane, let me ask you, what has surprised you in this journey?
it never goes as fast as I think it could. Yeah. Uh, I don't think one of my virtues is patience, and I was eager to get this to a national level fast. And when I look back at a New York Times article done our very first year, I could have written it, I could have said those words yesterday, which is scary, but also reassuring that
Yeah.
my commitment to what we're doing is steadfast. But nothing went as fast as I wanted. It takes longer to build. And I guess if I knew that, I would have been discouraged, but not dissuaded. But when people say, oh, you've done so much, I think, no, I should have done more. We should have. So I
You know
guess
what? I'm
patience.
going to jump in here for a sec
Yeah.
because it's interesting. I was talking to somebody in a networking group I'm in the other day, and she's like, "Well, there's this competition who could do the most this, that," and she goes, "And I'm competitive. I have to win that." And I
Mm.
said, "Okay." She goes, "Are you not?" She goes, "It's interesting. Are you, you're accomplished as a businessman. You've done this, that, and the other thing." I said, "I am very self-competitive, and I think that's the dancer in me. I am self-competitive in the sense of I will push myself to do more, be more. Always, it can I do one more turn? Can I do one more leap? Can I do one more, right? When I was a kid, and I remember coming home to my mom and saying, "Mom, can I get like a couple of private lessons with this teacher?" She goes, "Why? Like, do you need help with something? Like, are you struggling somewhere?" And I said, "No, no, no. Like, I figured I learned this. Like, I think I got the double pirouette, but I got to get the triple. And I'm not, and like, and she's like, "Well, is the rest of the class ahead of you?" Like, she's asking all logical questions. And I'm like, "No, it has nothing to do with that. I have to get this." So the self-competitiveness, and it's interesting. And I wonder if this is kind of a little bit of a dancer's way, that that consistently wanting to drive to improve, not to be better than anybody else. I never really cared. I wanted to be the best I can be no matter what. And
Um,
and it's that when I'm hearing you share and talk about, like, if I realized how long this could take, I still would have done it. But right, it's this always this drive to be
yeah.
more and be the best we can be and accomplish the
Yeah.
most.
Yeah.
And I have to say, transparently, I have a lot of my friends who are like, "How much longer are you going to work, Ivy?" I'm like, "Why would I stop? I have so much more to do. I love this." Yeah, and
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, so you're not there? I was like, "Goodness, like, why? This is so much fun, and I have more I want to accomplish." And I think there is this nature in our backgrounds.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always been driven, is intrinsically self-motivated. So yeah, I never looked for anyone else to drive me to do what I believed in. So yeah, I agree with that.
So, if you had one tip or one piece of advice to share with other leaders and other women leaders who are looking to build something, looking to make a between you and I, is a bit of a journey. It doesn't always happen in the timeline that we would like it to. Sometimes we do need a little more patience than we would like to have than we have. What would that piece of advice be?
It would be two, is if you're driven and have a passion, that will carry you through. If you don't have to do it, don't. And the second one is show gratitude every step of the way. It's about
I love that.
building relationships honestly, and I don't think one can show appreciation enough, because the board works not only as volunteers but as donors. The dancers never, we pay union scale, but you can never do enough for them, or the musicians, and just show gratitude, just always. And it's what I'm leaving my staff with, is just remember to show appreciation every step to 360.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Every moment, be show the gratitude of the people you work with. Say thank you. Show gratitude. I mean, I'm a strong believer in a gratitude practice and the ripple effect of gratitude in growth and scaling. And I will say I was also very much raised with say thank you, show appreciation for not the big things, all the little things, because
Yeah.
all those little things add up for us.
They certainly do, Ivy.
Diane Coburn Bruning, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining me here today
Yeah.
at Her Success Story.
Yeah, we have a big season coming up next week. We're really thrilled. We actually have 16 musicians and 14 dancers. Like, what dance company does that? One that believes in live music.
And I agree with you. And so I will say, my little granddaughter, who's like 2 years old, started her first little dance class, a little ballet class. And I said, Grandma's taking her to the first class. Bought her the leotard, bought her the sweater. But I was like, I'm in. Booked myself out that morning. And the first thing when I went there, and we met Mr. Alex, the pianist. And I'm like, this, this has, this has substance, and that meant the world to me. And I shared that because I think you get it.
Yeah, yeah.
Listeners, this is what I like to say as we close the show. Take a deep breath in. Identify one takeaway, one thing that has resonated with you in the conversation that Diane and I had today. Somewhere jot that down and identify an action. From every takeaway, we create one action. You join us every week and you are in continuous motion, and you will be choreographing your business, your career to your greatest success. That's what this is about. It's about the baby steps, the consistency. So I encourage you to share that takeaway, share the action. If today's episode resonated with you, share that forward, hit subscribe, and we always appreciate a wonderful 5-star review. See you next time on Her Success Story.